Welcome to the heart of France for the second round of the 2021 Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS, to what is the first Sprint Cup event of the season. There are 27 cars split between 16 teams, 7 manufacturers and 3 classes for this weekend's pair of one-hour races at Magny-Cours. Unique to this French event, the first of these races will be held in full darkness, adding an extra ingredient of excitement to this already heady mix. The racing was sensational here in 2020, so strap yourself in for more of the same. Aurélien Panis showed great speed last year in his first season of GT3 racing, but has changed machinery for 2021, moving from Lexus to Audi as he joins Santalok Racing, where he's being partnered by longtime Audi expert Fred Verviche in one of 13 extremely competitive all-pro driver lineups here at Magny-Cours.
Every time in GT World Challenge is really close. There is a lot of cars, a lot of really good and professional drivers, so for sure will be a nice battle, but we are ready for it. I think the goal will be to be constant all the season, to try to fight for the championship, but for sure the other car and the other drivers are really strong also, so it will be a tough battle, but we are ready for it.
Adrian Delino is back for a second year in the GT World Challenge, and the Belgian racer is joined by super successful long-time Lamborghini ace Christian Engelhardt in Dynamic Motorsports Sprint Cup Porsche, with Engelhardt already having tasted victory in the opening endurance race 3 weeks ago at Monza.
Yeah, I mean, we had a fabulous first race in Monza in the Endurance Cup, and now we're here for the first time for the first race in the Sprint Cup, and it's obviously really nice to be the only Porsche on the grid and bring Porsche back to the Sprint Cup. I think it's the first ever entry, so quite honored to be part of that, and looking forward to a great weekend. Obviously we've been racing in endurance and various other GT3 championships already. Porsche is a very good car, very consistent over different types of circuits. So we expect to be competitive everywhere. We will give our best, and I think we know our competition well. We fight our competition also in the Endurance Cup. So let's see where we are here.
Last year's outright European champion Timo Boguslawski is back for another campaign in an ACA ASP Mercedes, and the 21-year-old is joined by Italian ace Raffaele Marciello again as he looks to add the Sprint Cup title.
I did a test in Valencia at the February, and like 1 week ago at the Alpe, at the home track of the team. So it feels like car is good. Yeah, I think teams find some new setups for the car. I think we had a good pace, and also ACA shows very pace at the Monza. So as always, ACA is the top team. And I think, yeah.
Jules Gounon has changed manufacturers, becoming a works Mercedes driver after 3 years with Bentley. The French ace has also found a new partner in this year's Sprint Cup, as he is joined in one of ACA ASP's 3 Mercedes AMGs by Romanian racer Petra Umberescu, who also spent last year behind the wheel of a Bentley.
Yeah, it's completely different. In endurance, it's a long race. We're sharing the car at 3 drivers, and the approach is completely different. Here it's sprint, everything is flat out. There's a lot of contact on tracks normally. The pit stops are also unrestricted. So the key part of the team is also to make very fast pit stop at the halfway to the race. And yeah, it's such a short race that you need to really push 120% every lap. So it's a completely different approach, and it's very nice to have both. A fantastic circuit. I mean, it's a legendary track, Formula 1 track. I was watching F1 when I was a kid on this track, and it's such a fast track with the 2 chicane in the middle of the track, which is amazing. And to drive also at night is something very challenging, because the track feels very fast and it's very nice. So very happy to be back here. SRO always give us mega tracks around the world, and this one is one of them.
Stefan Richelme is back in full-time competition after 2 years away, and the Monegasque racer is sharing one of CMR's pair of Bentley Continentals with 2020 French GT champion Benjamin Lessen.
Very happy about my teammate. He's looking very fast, very consistent. I love our way of working. You know, we have a good comprehension. We want to go in the same way with the balance of the car. So I'm very happy about this, and I'm really looking forward to this championship.
Ricardo Feller ended his 2020 sprint campaign within a whisker of race-winning form and remains with the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini squad. Will race this weekend with Albert Costa after a top 3 finish at Monza.
Yeah, it was quite nice. I like the track. I love the first part of the track with the fast combination and also with the two fast chicanes. I don't really like the last part, but yeah, it's quite nice overall. I think we have a good baseline. We are still working on it to improve, but I think we're in a good position for the weekend.
Pierre-Alexandre Jean is only 20, but he's already in his second year of GT3 racing, and he's joined by teenage single-seater graduate Ulysses de Pauw in his quest for Silver Cup glory.
I think it's cool because I drove in the night in Le Mans other night race, and there is no problem about this. But I mean, it's always something new, because even if you know a track almost by heart, you come by night and everything's different. You cannot take the same signals to brake or something like this. So everything comes quicker also because of the night. So it's more challenging. But I mean, we are here for this, so let's do it.
Alexander West landed the Endurance Pro-Am title last year and already a winner in this year's Endurance Opener at Monza. He's back for more, partnered this year in his Garage 59 Aston Martin by platinum-rated four-time British GT champion Johnny Adam.
So far a good start to the season at Monza. That was an eventful race. This will be difficult. I mean, we haven't done the sprint series before, so for me it's a way of practicing racecraft and being sort of on qualifying pace and improving that. So, but it's we're not that many people or that many cars in the Pro-Am, but they're all very, very good. So it will be interesting.
There are 7 manufacturers shooting for glory in this year's Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS, with cars from Audi, from BMW, from Ferrari, from Lamborghini, from McLaren, from Mercedes, and from Porsche. And this is how the points stand worldwide after the early season races in America, Australia and Europe, with Mercedes leading by a small margin from Lamborghini and Porsche holding third position.
Well, look at the temperatures. I mean, it's come down a little bit from about an hour ago, but 19 ambient, 19.3 track temperature. Much warmer than they had last night when they had qualifying. The other factor, Bruce, is the previous race, one of the French Touring Car Championship Series, the circuit is covered. I mean, there were more cars off the racetrack than were on the racetrack, and particularly down at the Adelaide Hairpin Bend, but basically all around the racetrack. I don't know whether the circuit has been able to clean all that up, but apart from all the other issues that you have to deal with nighttime racing, you need to be aware that there are offline parts of the racetrack which are no-go areas.
Well, certainly having a look at what was littered all over the track up at Adelaide. If you take the wide line into the hairpin at the top of the hill there, you could just carry straight on into the gravel. So the drivers were being told that by their crew chiefs, who were probably keeping an eye on that during that little touring car race before. But we've got 27 cars lined up, and we have Charles Weerts about to start from pole position, sharing with Dries van Tor, but it was really, really chop and change. But just mentioning our pole starter, that's Charles Weerts. I mentioned his teammate, Dries van Tor, with Gemma.
Dries, we've just left the grid. Charles is starting. Talk to me about how difficult this track is in the night, because the start-finish line is the only sector that's actually lit.
Yeah, I mean, in general, it's not really an easy track. Especially, it makes it not a lot easier in the dark. But we'll see. I mean, it's very well the same. Yesterday we had some good practice in the dark, so looking forward to the dark, and let's see what we can do.
Have a great race. Thank you very much.
Well done, Gemma, for catching Dries van Tor down there. What I noticed, John, as the pair of them were standing there in the pit lane, it's very breezy as well. But let's take a look at the grid. Charles Weerts On pole position, Ricardo Feller swapped from 14 Lamborghini to 163. Sister car Arthur Rougier took his place and qualified third fastest. Very impressive indeed. Patrick Kujala will start fourth. Also in the Silver Cup class, Ezekiel Perez-Companc and Lucas Stoltz, who fleetingly held pole position but ended up down in sixth. Oscar Tunjo really flying again, the Colombian in seventh. Timo Bogoslawski, overall champion in 2020, is starting eighth, sharing with Raffaele Marciello. A driver on the rise, flying high, if you will, Frank Bird, ninth. Tommaso Mosca, again, racing well for Attempto Racing in their Audi, one of their pair of Audis here at Magny-Cours. Chris Froggatt, champion in Pro-Am last year, now in the Silver Cup class. He'll start the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari in 11th. And Leo Roussel moving across from sports prototypes to race in GTs. Welcome to Leo. And Petru Umbrarescu will be starting 13th. Thomas Tuchela from 14th on the grid. Mercedes alongside Aston Martin. Then Aurelien Panis, Santalot Racing, and Ulysses Depot stepping across from Formula 3. The Belgian teenager will start 16th. Konstantin Tereshchenko for ACA ASP, and Benjamin Lessen in one of the two CMR Bentleys starts in 18th place. Young Benjamin Goethe 19th on the grid. Another young racer, Alex Acker, alongside in a pair of Audis on the row, number 10. In Constellappa Lehnen, yet more Finns in this grid, and Ollie Wilkinson in the sole McLaren in this race will start 21st and 22nd on the grid. Then Adrian Delina in the one Porsche starting today down in 23rd, and the top Pro-Am driver Alexander West will start on 24th grid position in his Garage 59 Aston Martin. Miguel Ramos, the Portuguese racer, and Valentin Peerberg, Pro-Ams, both together, 25th and 26th on the grid. And the final car, Louis Michiels. They had a few little problems in qualifying. Expect that AF Corsa Ferrari to pick up the pace. But John, dazzled by the headlights as the cars go around the circuit. But as you said, light by the pits. It's dark absolutely everywhere else.
Yes, and when the lights go out, and you should see up at the top of the racetrack, the return leg at Chateau d'Eau, that's the only other part of the racetrack that really has a level of illumination. But it does get very dark. We've just had the sun drop down behind the racetrack, so it's not yet what I would describe as deep ocean dark, but it's getting there.
So the order looked very, very good for Audis in the early stages of qualifying, and then suddenly, right at the end, those two Emil Frey Racing Lamborghinis put themselves right in the mix, second and third, because at one point I think we had 5 Audis in the top 7 positions. But qualifying doesn't count for naught, but very soon it's all going to get totally different and very serious indeed as we head down through the final sequence of corners and then get into the first of these 1 hour races. The lights are out on the safety car. That will pull into the pit lane. This is turn 15 at the bottom of the hill at Lycée Pin, the hairpin, and then there's the right-left complex onto the start-finish straight, and the lights are red on the gantry. It looks as though Charles Weerts has got in the right position. Everyone's got to go 2 by 2. It'll be a long hold because those at the back can't see it, but suddenly it was actually a very short hold, John. Who's going to burst out into the lead, out of the dazzle of the headlights? And is Charles Weerts, the young Belgian, in front of those 2 Lamborghinis. Down through Grand Curve they go, and then into the super critical corner that goes on forever. Estoril.
Yes, Estoril leads on to the quickest part of the racetrack. That's the Gulf straight on board with the 14 Emil Frey Racing Arthur Rougier. Cars run wide on the exit, kicking up the dust. Nobody seems to have had any serious issues on this opening 2 corners of a 1 hour race.
Okay, place being gained there through the kink at Gulf, but up to the hairpin at the top of the hill, and it's still the Audi at the front of the field. Nice and neat, nice and tidy, but as you can see, riding on board a few places, being attempted, not necessarily making the move stick, but really, it was all about nailing it from pole position for Team WRT. There's the order. Charles Weerts, Ricardo Feller, Arthur Rougier. Just to point out, Rougier just happened to be present with the team when Norbert Siedler injured himself slightly with a crash in qualifying. He stepped down, Rougier stepped in, and here he is running in 3rd position on home ground.
So still halfway round the opening lap, coming through what they call the 180, then the climb back up through the curves to the left, then back up to the Imola chicane, the quick right and left, and then get the car straightened up on the brakes, then the tight hairpin at Chateau d'Eau, the drop down, but looking already the gap between the first 4 cars and the rest of the field, the first 2 rows more or less as they started making that mini break.
Exactly so. In fact, the first place change in the top 6 is Ezekiel Perez-Companc losing 5th place as Lucas Stoltz starts to make the moves in the white Top Sport WRT Mercedes. Now, corner cutting there at the chicane, and there may be a position having to be handed back there. Those 2 chicanes, the uphill, the downhill one. and very tempting to go in side by side, but as we know, John, over the decades, it doesn't really work. You have to go nose to tail through them.
Having made that move on the inside of the chicane, as long as there was no specific gain, no track position gain, I think nothing will happen. But it's interesting that the top 4 cars already have opened up clear air between themselves and the 5th place Lucas Stolz and what is the fact the lead Mercedes, followed by Ezekiel Perez Compact, and the Mad Panda, that's the silver entry. The pro entry is the 5th place Lucas Stolz.
Again, nice and tidy as they run down the hill out of the Adelaide hairpin. A few place changes have been happening at the hairpin, but not at the very front of the field. It's still Charles Weerts, but Ricardo Feller in 2nd place. Moved from the number 14 Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini into the 163. He's just put in the fastest opening sector of anyone. He's closing onto the tail now with Charles Weerts. It was 9/10 of a second on the start-finish line. In fact, as we go up the hill again, it looks so it is the same sort of margin. Let's see. Oh yes, in fact the response, quarter of a second regained by the race leader, so Charles Weerts keeping that advantage. Don't forget, this is a 1-hour race. A driver change some point around the middle, but right now it's settled into a very good pattern.
I mean, clearly the lead car, Charles Weerts, has got all the advantages that you can wish for. He's got a clear racetrack ahead of him. He's got no distractions. He's not seeking to make an overtake. He can drive the race he wants to. He's gained already a margin of just over 1/10 of a second, 1.1 seconds over 2nd place. Ricardo Feller, Rouget a little bit further behind. Then the Ferrari, keep an eye on the Rinaldi Ferrari. Patrick Kužela was very, very impressive in qualifying. Started 4th, still running in 4th place in that Silver Cup Ferrari.
Yeah, just about to come to Kužela. He was hanging around outside the top 10, then right at the end he suddenly popped it up into 4th place, and he's not being embarrassed in the race. He's managing to keep that position very nicely indeed. Some of the onboard footage being provided by Ezekiel Perez Compact, the number 90 Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. And unfortunately for him, Lucas Stolz is becoming smaller and smaller as the German starts to pull away in 5th place. And Mad Panda and Ezekiel Perez Compact have got a fellow Mercedes behind them, Oscar Tunio, who's really starting to challenge. Oh, there's a flash and a place change down the order. One of the WRT Audis flashing its way through. I think that was car 31. Chris Froggatt is fighting, and let's just check. Yeah, Frank Bird's made the move stick, and he's moved up that position. So just running down the order. 1st and 2nd, Charles Weerts and Ricardo Feller. Top Silver Cup runners Arthur Rougier, the 2nd of those Emil Frey Racing Lamborghinis. That's car number 14. Top Pro-Am runner on the grid was Alex West. And just going to wait until those cars flash by to check if Alex, the Swedish racer, is still leading that class in his Garage 59 Aston Martin. And indeed he is. He's just ahead of Miguel Ramos, just under half a second clear. Always looks so rough as the cars go over the curves. And turn 16 and 17, the final 2 corners, the laps, just witnessing Chris Froggatt trying his utmost in 11th position at the moment. Thereabouts to hold on to ground, but having to clunk his way over the curves.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's so difficult. You're in a group of cars, you're looking to find a way forward, the car you're following. Likewise, you've got somebody up your gearbox, and of course, it's all the more difficult at night time, especially when you're going, as it were, cold from daytime qualifying into a nighttime race, making that reset, making an adjustment, finding your reference points around the racetrack, looking for marker mode, telling you where the braking zones are coming up. Where can you place the car? As I mentioned, there was a lot of rubbish got brought onto the track in the previous race. You can see here coming through the Nürburgring chicane that just on the offline, there's a mixture of gravel and whatever else has been dragged back onto the circuit.
Yeah, whenever you get that low angle, you can see all the marbles, but definitely there's a much narrower racing line around the circuit than there would be if there hadn't been all the other races earlier today. And certainly the drivers in the French Touring Car Championship, the Super Tourism Series, really did kick a lot of stuff out there. Not easy to see, but you'll certainly feel it if you just run out wide and wonder where all the grip has gone. Drivers going right to the edge of the circuit in that search for grip. Now, who's leading? It was still Charles Weerts. Who's challenging? It's still Ricardo Feller, but the gap's got out to 1.2 seconds. But this lap, certainly Ricardo Feller's getting closer. He's gained 1/10 of a second, but Charles Weerts is doing precisely what he needed to do. Took that pole position and did it well, and then in this race led away from pole position and looks comfortable in the lead.
I mean, what you've got is fundamentally the top two rows of the grid, the four cars, all moving forward in unison. There's nothing much between each other, so maybe a second and a little bit between each car. Then you've got the gap back to fifth place. Lucas Stolz, he's that little bit further back and losing contact. Stolz is a little bit again further ahead of Ezequiel Perez Compact. He's 2.8 seconds behind. So Stolz now maybe running in that little bit of cleaner, clear air that will give him the ability to forget about what's happening behind, think about what he can do now to run down the fourth place Patrick Kuchera in the Ferrari.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at some VMAX top speeds coming up, and it's Ulisses de Pauw. He's stepped up from single seaters. He's fastest so far in the race, sharing it with fellow Belgian Benjamin Lecen, 256 kilometres an hour. Bear that in mind. But another thing you need to bear in mind is the fact that we saw the drivers getting out after a half-hour touring car race looking very hot indeed. We saw it was nearly 20 degrees air temperature before these drivers got in, and for Lucas Stolz in fifth place, he's actually one who can relax a little bit because he's got nearly a 3-second advantage to the field behind him, and his car's running in clear air. Almost everybody else is nose to tail, so what little bit of cooling is available out there, he at least is grabbing that, and I expect Stolz to move on the tail to make it a 5-car battle for the lead.
Yeah, I mean, the ambient has dropped a little bit since the previous race, but of course they were a different, they were all front engine essentially touring cars. Some of these are mid front engine, some are mid rear engine. Porsche, of course, they've got their particular way of designing a car, but it's this group of 4 cars that's making the break. As you look down at the 7 Mercedes, that's Oscar Tunio in 7th position. Again, he's running within just over half a second behind that car of Ezequiel Perez Compact as they come through the Estoril corner. That long triple right-hand corner leads on to the quickest part of the racetrack now. This is down at the Adelaide hairpin, hard on the brakes. You can see just in the perimeter of the corner just how much rubble and rubbish there is. So the 2 Mercedes running in 6th and 7th place, followed by Tommaso Mosca in the 2nd of the Audis that are in the top 10.
I think because this race has been very, very clean thus far, the pebbles that were on the circuit, little bits of gravel have been sort of moved by the field a little bit wider, so maybe there'll be a slightly wider, maybe even a second racing line when they get to the top of the hill at the Adelaide hairpin in laps to come, but still plenty of caution from the field as they go through. Nearly 10 minutes into this 1-hour race in full darkness here at Magny-Cours, and Charles Weerts a second to the good, or as near as could be. 0.994 of a second last time around was his advantage over Ricardo Feller.
On board with Chris Froggett in the Ferrari, running in 12th place. He's got Benjamin Lascelles all over the back, so he's looking forward, thinking, well, I want to make some progress, I want to get onto the tail of that's Frank Bird directly ahead in the Audi, but he's got to be kept honest. In fact, the 2 Bentleys running 13th and 14th, and notably, Bruce, it was the 2 Bentleys that were the fastest cars in a straight line, and that's important here, Magny-Cours, because the big overtaking opportunity will come at the end of that long Gulf Straight down into Adelaide hairpin.
Indeed, one of the crucial corners on the lap, of course, is the second corner, Estoril. It's a long right-hander, 180 degrees, ends the kink afterwards, but so many times, John, someone tries to gain an advantage there. They just run out of track, they run wide, lose momentum. Talking of momentum, it's getting very, very tight with the Lamborghini really pushing on there. That battle for third.
I think it might have been the 3rd place Lamborghini, ran wide coming out of the Grand Courbe, kicked up dust on the exit, had to make the transition back to the right to get into Estoril, and of course Estoril's a corner you don't want to overload the car because you'll scrub all your speed off. You want to have the car as free as possible to gain the benefit on the exit of Estoril.
Well, he was almost doing precisely what I said you didn't want to do at Estoril, because of course after that, yes, there's a kink on the rise, that's Gulf, but you're flat out from the moment you've passed the second apex on that corner. But if you're running wide, you have to come off the power with all the consequences.
Just looking at the tail of the Porsche running in 22nd place. In fact, I think Alexander West might have gotten past that, so I think the Porsche might have dropped a position and the Aston Martin up to 22nd position. This is the tail of the field, but the racing is as intense as it is right now. This is the middle of the field, looking at corner speed in Imola. Imola is the chicane, it's a high-speed chicane, 172 clicks. Chris Froggett, the car we're riding on right now, is the quickest, even quicker than the race leader.
Well, that is super impressive. And it's not just a small margin, it's 3 kilometres an hour. And Imola, if you need reminding, it's 12th turn on the circuit, 12th and 13th turns. It's a right, a left. It's sort of over a bit of a crest as well. So very, very tricky indeed. But we have a spinner. Round goes the 87 Mercedes. That's unfortunate indeed for Konstantin Tereshchenko, one of the two Russian drivers in the race. And all his good work is coming unstuck as much as his rear wheels did. He was 16th at the start of the lap. He certainly won't be there at the end. In fact, he's down. He's lost 10 full places.
Yeah, I mean, that just appeared to be the back end got away and he wasn't able to get the lock on, keep the car. And of course, once the momentum builds up, then the effect is the tail swaps around with the lead. There we go back, in fact, to the lead. There's first, second, third, and where's the fourth place Ferrari? Well, it's probably just coming into view. Charles Veart still has got what you might call a 1.6 second lead, a comfortable lead. He's been kept honest because sector time after sector, it's Ricardo Feller who's putting up purple sector time, but he hasn't really, although he's quickest maybe in the middle sector, some laps, he hasn't in this sort of space of 7 laps been able to run down the lead idea of Charles Veart.
Yes, I think time after time, the third and final sector, which starts just at that Imola chicane and runs through to the end of the lap, is where he loses out Charles Veart's gains. But talk of losing out, Patrick Kushler starting to drop back a bit now in fourth place. He's still a second clear of Lukas Stoltz's Mercedes, because he's 2.5 seconds down on the second of those Lamborghinis. That one there, number 14, driven by Arthur Rougier. And I look all the way down suddenly to 16th place, and the driver just banged in the fastest middle sector of anyone is Aurélien Panis. He's 16th, but suddenly he's finding some speed from somewhere. Then again, he's got to see what he can do about the car ahead, and that is the second of those Bentleys. It's Benjamin Lecen. So sudden speed as the tyres come good, the driver settles down. But look, it's so dark around 80% of this lap. Of course, the full burst of sunlight, not sunlight, sorry, floodlights at various points, but most notably as Chris Froggatt gets the tail very out of order.
I mean, that wasn't the tail out, that was the whole car in a uncontrolled four-wheel drift. And there's the penalty. The Bentley running behind gained the momentum. Froggatt had to get out of the throttle to keep the Ferrari pointing in the straight line. Now overtaken by the Bentley, which is the quickest car in a straight line, and he outbrakes himself. So Chris Froggatt has got that position back. He's probably sweating like a racehorse, and got away with that one.
Well, we're talking of horses, never looking a gift horse in the mouth. That was Ulisses Depot, and then it all got too much for the single-seater convert. He was in Formula 4, then Formula 3. These are much bigger, heavier machines, and simply didn't get the braking right into Adelaide. He will be kicking himself, but for Chris Froggatt, he knows he's going to be on the highlights tape with that slide out of Estoril.
I mean, that was an unexpected loss of grip, and it was not just the back of the car. The whole car just suddenly seemed to be, it's if it was on ice, but it may not have been ice. It may have been a little bit of debris on the racetrack, just caught the outside rear wheel. Well, there is the battle between the Ferrari having regained the advantage, having lost it on the entry to the straight, getting it back on the entry into Adelaide, but pressure from behind, and Ulisses Depot will certainly realise putting pressure on Froggatt may be paying me dividends. I'm going to keep it up.
Most certainly is, and as you can see from the VMAX top speed, it's still the Bentley, it's still Ulisses to power the driver we're talking about, and his teammate Benjamin Lecen still 3 kilometres faster than anybody else. Best of the rest still Frank Bird. Being no improvements on those times as the race settles down. Hour on the clock, we only have 15 minutes of run, but it's looking very good indeed for Charles Veart. It's clear by 1.2 seconds. Ricardo Feller has pace in parts, but around a full lap still has no answers.
Well, in fairness, he's taken about 2 or 3 tenths of a second out of the advantage that Charles Veart has currently enjoyed. So the gap between first and second is marginal, but it is closing down. The third place, that's the second. 163 is the second place. Ricardo Feller is the 14th car, 14 Arthur Rougier, who is now maybe a second and a half behind his sister car. So it is right now Feller who's making a charge.
But Feller is clearly leading Rougier, but Rougier is learning a lot. He's already tied in with his team. He raced for them early this year in the endurance round at Monza, but here he had to suddenly step up to the plate when Norbert Siedler injured himself, and that led to the changing of Feller from number 14 Lamborghini to 163. But right now, some laps he gains and some he loses by quite a lot to the race leader Charles Veart. Charles is just looking very comfortable.
Well, yes, he is, but coming down into the Lycée Pain, that's the first part of that little complex, looked to me as if he's struggling a little bit with front-end bite on the Audi. The gap is now under a second, indicating that maybe Charles Veart is beginning to suffer from that lack of front grip, particularly in the left front tire. Again, through the long Estoril corner, punishes the left front tire. So Ricardo Feller, he's probably getting the message. He can see the gap in himself, and Charles Vance has come down from 1.6 seconds 2 or 3 laps ago to under a second.
Yeah, that lap alone, he lost a quarter of a second. Oh yes, it's definitely closer now, and Feller's got the sniff, the scent in his nose. At the end of last season, he was the driver really on the move. Didn't quite take a win, but you feel it's a matter of when, not if, for the Swiss racer. Super tidy on that downhill run across the curbs at Nürburgring. But still, it's the Audi that leads, number 32, but that gap is smaller and smaller. First part of this lap, yes, more gain by Ricardo Feller. He's found a quarter of a second. Second part of the 3 sectors is usually his territory as well, but the final part, until the last couple of laps, has been where the Audi makes good all over again. But what is the state of the tyres?
So up the hill into Chateau d'Eau. The gap is probably more or less status quo as it was when they came across the line. It ebbs and flows marginally around different parts of the circuit, depending who's on the brakes, who's on the throttle first. So it was here that I noticed that the understeer was setting into the Audi. This time looked maybe slightly less understeering. Maybe Charles Vance has been able to make a small adjustment in how he enters the corner, maybe just slightly slower in, get on the throttle a little bit earlier. Gap coming across the line remains 9/10 of a second, so nothing lost, nothing gained.
Well, quite remarkably, the last lap, their lap times were identical to the thousandths of a second. So you're absolutely spot on, John. Nothing lost, nothing gained between the first 2 cars in the field. Third place, still the Silver Cup class leader, Arthur Rougier, brought into the second of those Emile Frey Racing Lamborghinis, and still leading the way in the Pro-Am classes. Alexander West, he's now still behind Adrian Delina. The position swapped, and then I think swapped back the other way, but still leading Pro-Am in 23rd position overall. We started with 27 cars on the track. We still have 27. And there, Louis Michiels making up ground. In fact, he has, well, he's listed as the class leader. He's just now in the lead of the class.
Yes.
On my timing screen, he's still listed in second place. We'll sort that one out for you. But he started last after problems in qualifying. Expected him to make up ground in the AF Corse of Ferrari. And he's certainly putting in some quick laps in doing so.
So here are the lead 2 cars. So look at the gap up into the Imola chicane. And if I was Charles Vance, I would be wondering what is going on, because I've got pressure from Lamborghini and I can't do much more about it.
No, so there we have a clear definition that AF Corse of Ferrari now in the lead of the Pro-Am class. Worked its way very tidily up the order, getting soon towards the tail of the top 20. No change at the front of the field, except that gap is coming down and down. Ricardo Feller getting closer and closer. It was 0.95 of a... It's 0.6 of a second now, a third of a second gain on this lap. We're 20 minutes into this 1-hour race. And the 163 Lamborghini chasing very hard indeed after Charles Wirtz. After Rougier now losing a bit more ground, he's 2.5 seconds further back. But those first 2 almost in their own world of darkness out on this circuit, as the young Swiss racer chases after Charles Wirtz. Belgium leading the race from Switzerland. Belgium team from Swiss team, just to keep it neat and tidy, John.
Yeah, and the gap again is just under 6/10 of a second, so clearly Ricardo Feller is the driver in the Lamborghini who's able to run that little bit quicker. And remember, he's having to do it following in the aero wash of the lead Audi of Charles Vance, which is never particularly easy, and this is a circuit which has got a number of quick sections, so that hurts even more. There is the lead car, there's the second place car. It's just, what, 0.599 of a second when they came across the line at the end of lap 13. This is lap 14. We've got 39 minutes of this race remaining. In another 4 minutes, the pit lane will open. But, you know, these 2 lead cars, Albert Koss is going to take over from Ricardo Feller. Dries van Thor is going to take over from Charles Vance. It's even Stevens, because the talent and the skill of those 2 drivers that are going to step in. Of course, it will maybe be a race that will be determined, as we've seen in the past so frequently, by who is the most efficient to get in and get out of the pit lane.
Now, one thing I just noticed, Santonot Racing took one of the 2 wins here last year with Stephen Pellett and Simon Gachet, but unfortunately one of their cars, Leo Rissel's, tumbled down out of the top 20. That means everyone else has been promoted. Louis Michiels, leading the prime class, is now in 21st position. So for Leo Rissel in that number 25 Santonot Racing Audi, fallen almost right to the bottom of the order. Didn't catch what happened to him in the full darkness here at Magny-Cours, but the order is moving around, but not at the very top. But what is happening, and there is Roussel at the bottom of the charts there. Afraid he's probably come to a halt out on the circuit, but still no change at the front, but the gap is definitely getting smaller and smaller. 0.631 of a second as Ricardo Feller continues to chase Charles Weerts, being watched all the time by the sister car, the number 14 Lamborghini there, Arthur Rougier, just 2 and a bit seconds down. In fact, I think he's just catching the 2 of them very, very slightly as they fight so hard for the lead of this race.
Well, the gap between second place and third place is now effectively, it's a two-way battle for the lead as we come up to the opening of the pit stop window, and there is no mercy being given by Ricardo Feller. He's putting pressure all the way around the lap. You can see in the headlights, if you do have to go offline, you're going to put yourself into jeopardy. So both drivers being very cautious indeed. Look at the replay. There's the reason why we maybe lost Roussel, because that car in the gravel trap was Frank Bird. What are you doing, Frank Bird? You were in 10th place.
Well, so suddenly 2 Audis in problems. Last time around it was Leo Roussel. This time round and round it was Frank Bird. He did press by picking his way into the top 10 with Team WRT. But for the team now, they've just got to focus on what lies ahead. It's the pit stops, and they're coming very soon indeed. And he was one of the Team WRT runners.
Yes, and that was the WRT team getting ready. Now, I wonder whether there's going to be the earliest opportunity pit stop for WRT to bring the lead 32 Audi in, to hand it over to Dries van Thor. Yellow flag. Circuit's going to go full course yellow. So there we go, full course yellow. Now that's going to open up an opportunity, because there'll be a minute and 46 seconds before the pit lane opens. They want to remove that. It is the Audi indeed, just looking, it's the 31. So they want to remove Frank Bird's car to a place of safety. That's on the outside and the exit of the Grand Curb, a quick part of the racetrack to go off. And as we sit on board Alexander West, as he cruises around now at a low pace, 50 kilometers per hour, full course yellow, the Audi will be trailered away or towed away by, there it is, there's the recovery vehicle. So everybody down to the required 50 miles an hour, 80 kilometers, or 50 kilometers per hour. Get the Audi. It's buried. You can't get that car out without outside assistance. And this is going to throw another little maverick into the strategy of all those teams, because they are going to wonder, will they make their pit stop now? I am assuming that pretty much everybody's going to take the opportunity.
Well, with the field being bunched up, it's going to make the pit lane much, much busier if they came in slightly spaced out. But there we have full course yellow. Of course, it's not going to get totally bunched. They have to run at the speed limit, so
yes,
that's to scratch that previous comment. But it does mean, I think, the options about which lap to come in on will be scrambled, and the teams have to work on these occasions as well. They have to understand the tactics and the strategy of what happens when things get compressed in a race. But full course yellow here, as Frank Bird's Audi will be towed away, and the pit window is delayed. It was due to open in, well, 10 seconds from now, and it certainly is not going to be. We'll let you know when it will open as soon as we get a message.
Well, what's going to happen is they're going to remove Frank Bird's car, and then once that's clear, then the pit lane window will be open. So nobody gains any specific advantage, or even more importantly, nobody will be disadvantaged. So there we see, it's difficult to tell precisely whether it was a driver error or whether he was having to make some adjustments. He was running behind a group of cars, and that group of cars would have been Chris Froggatt, Timo Boguslawski. Don't know what happened, although we just saw the tail end of Frank Bird's car getting off track at the exit of Grand Curb.
Always hard to pick out in the heat of battle, but in full darkness, when you've just got headlights going around, it's super tricky to apportion any blame there. It might have just been slightly too wide into the corner, and as John has pointed out since the start of the race, there's all sorts of gravel and other bits of detritus deposited out there from the previous races, and also just so hard to see it. In daytime, you might have half a chance noticing where it was, but at night time, you're just drifting a little bit wide, and then round you go. So for Frank Bird, the second of the fallers in this race, because just the lap before we lost Leo Roussel in one of the
Restart on short notice. Restart on short notice.
Very slightly. Charles Weerts leading the way, led from pole position. But look, Audi, Lamborghini, Ferrari. Haven't talked so much about Patrick Cougela. He's ended up nearly 12 seconds down in fourth place. He ran in the early laps. He started fourth on the grid in this Rinaldi Ferrari.
Pit window is open.
What are you spotting?
I spotted Frank Bird's car has been released, and it's driving back on the racetrack. Now the pit lane is not open yet, so he's going to have to stay out. The track has gone green, so I'm assuming that the pit lane will be opened once the track has gone green. But Frank Bird's car actually was back on the racetrack, driving back now. It'll be full of gravel. He's going to have to come into the pits anyway.
I was going to say, what is he doing under cover of darkness? He's depositing the gravel he collected from the gravel trap at the Grand Curve. But let's hope that Magny was out before the drivers exited the Estoril corner, because sliding wide there, as we've seen in this race, cost positions. You can see the gravel pinging off our race leader into the face. Oh, that's not the race leader, that's of course number 14 now in third place, right on the tail of 163. So that bit did get bunched right up.
And interestingly, the 88 Mercedes came in at the opportunity, and it's been handed over now to Raffaele Marciello. So pit lane window at 32 minutes 34 seconds remaining. WRT are preparing to bring in any one of their cars. I'm assuming they will want to bring in Charles Weerts and then let that hand over to Dries van Thor, to give Van Thor the opportunity with the remaining 30 plus minutes of this race to do what he knows there is the lead car.
Goes on round, doesn't continue the pits. Johnny Atten now, the two Lamborghinis coming in to make it very busy for the ML Fry Racing Garage. Would you have brought them in on the same lap, John?
Most certainly not. I mean, they're going to end up stacking the two cars. And you know, I don't know whether that was a command from the pit wall or not, but well, both cars were up. But it's very difficult to work around two cars in the same team with the amount of space available in the pit lane. They're doing a great job not tripping over one another, but it's so easy. If the 14 gets finished, look, it's boxed in now by one of the Bentleys. So the 163 is rolling, the 14's about to roll as well. So good work by Emil Fry to get those cars, but is that a safe or unsafe release? Because that was the Audi 32 that almost contact with the 14 Lamborghini and what was the lead car. So the 163 Lamborghini, in my opinion, has taken the lead in the pit stops.
Absolutely did. They came in almost nose to tail, and you can see the lollipop operative waving it in front of the driver. Why? Because Kelvin van der Linde waited for the second Lamborghini to go. Oh, tried to stop the driver too late. Here comes Kelvin van der Linde, just taken over from Benjamin Goethe. Couldn't quite gain a position there in the pits, but it was close.
I was getting overexcited. I thought that was the 32, but you're right, it's the Gulf sponsored. Kelvin van der Linde behind the wheel. That car will suddenly light up with the South African behind the wheel. So let's go back and see. There's, I think that might be Frank Bird we're looking at again.
Well, what we have to remember in this, of course, is that 32 race leader Charles Weerts declined to come into the pits. This time I suspect he will be coming in. Let's have a look. There's Dries van Thor, suited, booted, ready to go. No, one more lap going on the board for Charles Weerts, waiting for the pits to be absolutely empty. They are right now, actually.
The benefit, the team have made a decision to keep Weerts out because he has got a completely clear racetrack. He can get on and do what he wants to do without any distractions, especially since the two Emil Frey Lamborghinis opted to come in at the same time. So look at the outside of the racetrack, outside of Estoril. It is absolutely littered in gravel, but Weerts can now nail it, get on with what he can do best on a clear racetrack, and that's just give his teammate the best opportunity. He will be doing laps right now which probably nobody else in the field will be able to match. I'm just looking, his best lap in the race so far is a 1:37.4. His last lap, waiting for that lap to be illustrated, but I mean, he's got all the advantages in his favour right now, as does WRT.
It's almost so he's out in a night qualifying session all on his own. The track was so busy and now not. Slight hesitation for the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari as Benjamin Ites gets it back onto deck, and the third Lamborghini 114 that was started by Constant Appalainen. Now Jack Aitken will be going down, but it was noticeable the difference in the pit stop time between the 14 and 163 Lamborghinis. They came in nose to tail. Oh, now Jack Aitken has stalled, so 2 out of their 3 pit stops have not gone well.
Well, that one certainly was a disappointment. Jack Aitken looking forward to seeing how he makes progress, having now got the opportunity to start a race. As we look at the race leader coming down the hill. So this is coming up to his conclusion of his 19th lap. Is he going to come in this time? Pit window is still open. He's coming in this time.
And unlike the vast majority of his rivals who came in at the first opportunity, he's coming in at the second opportunity. Still other drivers waiting to take over other cars from the Team WRT camp. But this one is all about that driver there in the black, yellow and red. Very patriotic livery on his Belgian helmet there. And bang! Out comes the tall figure of Charles Weerts. In jumps his shorter compatriot. Dries Van Tor, meanwhile out on the circuit, pushing as hard as he possibly can. This is the number 14 car. Arthur Rougier started. It's Alex Fontana at the wheel at the moment. Pushing, but it's the sister car, 163, that should be making the break at the moment. Had the far better pit stop.
And good start by Dries Van Tor, gets the car rolling, but what is going to be the gap? Not here. It'll be by the time they come to conclusion. Van Tor will be on cold or cooler, certainly, tyres than those that are going to be competing against them. There's the 163 Lamborghini, which will be, I suspect, in second place by the time all the pit stops are washed through.
You'd certainly think so, John. So it's Albert Costa pressing on, and of course the gaps seem large, but you're quite right. Dries Van Tor's coming out. He's got to get some heat in his tyres, and that gap will really reduce. And let's see where they're placed when they get to the hairpin at the top of the hill. And there's the answer. Gap. There's one car between them, and it looks like it's about a 5-6 second gap, if not more, as the Audi goes down the hill. So they too have gained in the pit stop. We said that before about Team WRT, but I think a lot of that was down to Charles Vince's laps before the pit stop, staying out, pressing on with nobody on his rear.
You hear the benefit of using those laps to his advantage. Interesting, just looking further down, the Alexander Pierre-Jean in the Bentley had the fastest overall sector time in Sector 2 on the last lap. And that's a car that's currently running, what, in 16th position.
Well, don't forget those Bentleys, as we've seen whenever we get the speed trap, they are the two fastest cars at the highest speed point on this circuit. So certainly Pierre-Alexandre Jean getting stuck in straight away, having taken over the 107 entry from Ulysses Depot. And don't forget, Ulysses was sitting at the top of the chart. Riding on board now with Dutch racer Rick Broekers. And it's exciting, it's dark, and you can just see the debris on the track, the gravel pinging up in front of... there's the 31 car. That was the car that Frank Bird put into the gravel, and Riachiro Tamita will take it over. But he lost about 2 laps while sitting. And look how much gravel is left in the pits, John.
The car will certainly be half a second a lap quicker now, because the amount of gravel that was in the car, and that was just a microcosm of what was in the wheels on the rear of the car. So that car will pick up pace simply because it's not able to run at its designated race start weight, rather than carrying around maybe 50 kilos of gravel.
And for Riachiro Tamita, it's a bit of a sort of thankless task. All he's got to do is just have time on the track. He's not going to gain positions with so much time lost, stuck in the gravel at Grand Curb. But I must say, before that, Frank Bird was really driving very well indeed. Running very wide there. Chris Froggatt still staying out. He is our race leader, hasn't bothered to come into the pits, but in time, certainly time is coming soon. He's got to get in the pits and hand over to Giorgio Roda. And then, of course, we'll have Dries Van Tor leading this race. But for now, it's Chris Froggatt.
Yeah, I mean, certainly he was not particularly neat and tidy coming through the 180, and then he sort of compromised himself on the exit and then ran slightly too wide. There's a gentle curve which you go through on the way up to the Imola chicane. Now the drop down, having exited Chateau d'Eau down the hill. Now, is this going to be the pit stop for what is currently the leading Ferrari, the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari team? He's in the pit lane. So Chris Froggatt makes it in. One other car's got to get in the pits as well. Adrian Delina, the 54 Dynamic Motorsport Porsche, the car that took victory at Monza in the Enduro opener, but just in time. Look, the clock beats down, but of course the pit window opens slightly late, don't forget, because of Frank Bird's car being off. And out we go. Is there damage on the back of? Yes, certainly something's melted the back of the Ferrari there, but a great run from Froggatt, great speed in parts, but certainly was using the curves. That's not looking as it left the showroom, John. No, it's not, and I just wonder has the exhaust system been damaged, because that looks as if there's been extreme heat or something at the rear of that bodywork, and has caused or is causing a problem. I've got a slight theory there, John. Remember we saw that drift. Oh, that's not drifting, that's rubbing. That's they might say it's racing, but side-by-side contact. Yeah, going over the curve on the inside. The car got airborne, bounced down, made a slight sort of hip and shoulder on the Mercedes alongside. So getting very racy in the mid-pack. There's a lot of cars running very close together, and of course some of the drivers are taking over. One might describe as being what I would call number one driver in that particular car. And you've got a mix of pros, pro-ams and silver drivers all interacting right now until this final 23 minutes concludes. And not to put too fine a point in it, in full cover of darkness here, some drivers take a little longer to get up to speed to see where the debris is off the circuit. Now, Lucas Stoltz started the race for Team WRT, the TalkSport WRT entry, handed over now to Maro Engel, who's flying. Maro Engel is all over the back of Alex Fontana. and waiting just to catch just the headlights. So strong up the hill. So there is the Mercedes trying to go the long way around the Lamborghini. Will he have enough momentum to get up alongside? He's going to be on the outside as they drop down the hill. The Lamborghini is going to have, you know, the real estate. In other words, he's on the inside, but will the Mercedes make the undercut? Again, he's going to fall in behind the Lamborghini through this final left, right chicane, right, left chicane. Wow, wow. You can't get the words out quick enough.
No, you can't. I just want to go back. Remember when about 5 or 6 laps ago we had a fantastic drift, not wanted at all by Chris Frogger. I'm just wondering if something was leaking at the back of that Ferrari that has caused a conflagration that's melted that rear bodywork slightly. Something that might have leaked onto his tyres to call that, because he was getting quite ragged. Maybe something, oil a bit or something was going down.
I think that's a good explanation, because certainly he got caught out in Estoril, and then we saw on this last lap on his way in, he was running very, very wide going through the 180 and then up the hill towards Imola. So there is something at the rear of the car, whether that is you know, bodywork coming into contact with part of the exhaust system, but maybe quite simply there is a fairly substantial oil leak at the back of that car. Whatever it is, it doesn't look like it came out of the showroom.
Certainly doesn't. So let's just round out how it was before the pit stops. It was 32 from 163 from 14. It's like that right now. But Maro Engel's gained position. He's moved ahead of the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, as has Rick Breukers up into 5th place, the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. So 2 Mercedes working their way towards the cars ahead, but it's nearly a 10-second interval, unfortunately for them. But look at this charge. It's closed right down, because suddenly Stolz is gaining ground. Sorry, not Stolz. Engel has taken over that white Mercedes and is closing all the time on Alex Fontana. Fontana's car delayed in the pits a little bit.
In the meantime, the gap between first and second place, Albert Carsten in the 163 Lamborghini, is 8+ seconds. It's this battle right now for the final podium position. Alex Fontana in the Lamborghini and Maro Engel in the Mercedes. Right now, Maro Engel is the quicker of the two cars, but being quicker doesn't automatically mean you're going to get past the car you're following. Fontana has got all the tools he needs to keep the Mercedes at bay. It's only if the Mercedes can get alongside and make a clean pass, then will Fontana realise that the Mercedes is the quicker of these two.
So time after time, you have to get a really, really good exit from the second corner of the lap from Estoril. You've got to be as quick as you possibly can onto that kick straight up to the hairpin, where they are right now, the Adelaide hairpin at the top of the hill. Little bit gained by Maro Engel in the slipstream, but then as they go down the hill, the Lamborghini pulls away all over again. It's nip and it's tuck. The interval's though, first to second, 9 seconds. That's the lead that Dries van Tor has over the 163 Lamborghini. The leading car in the Silver Cup class, still number 14 Lamborghini in 3rd overall. But as John mentioned, that's nearly 10 seconds down on the sister car, but 0.4 of a second ahead of Maro Engel. And Engel, at certain points, gets very close and deep. And he's got 20 minutes left to craft a manoeuvre to see if he can get up onto the podium.
The big frustration for Maro Engel is that, having closed very quickly to the rear of the Lamborghini, he's sort of got stalled out. He hasn't been able to make any further progress. And in fact, I would say that Maro Engel maybe slowing marginally, just dropping back to give himself a chance to reset, make another charge on the Lamborghini. The problem is you get so close to the rear of a car within half a second or maybe even less, your performance is then utterly dictated to by the Lamborghini. You cannot drive your car where you want to drive it on the racetrack. So just drop back. You have the natural pace. Try now here, particularly in the exit of Estoril, and look at the titanium skid blocks sparking all the way through on the left-hand side as they come out to the exit of Estoril and all the way down to Adelaide.
Don't forget, of course, Maro Engel and Lucas Stolz have been such a strong pairing over the years, and suddenly Jack Aitken, John just pointed out, Jack Aitken had a bit of a delayed pit stop. He's taken over the 114 Lamborghini, and he's now putting in, would suggest, well, definitely that car's fastest lap of the race and setting fastest sector times of anybody, so he's got it going. We're just going back to the point 12 months ago when the cars were here. Well, no, the season was, of course, a bit compressed in 2020, but in the first of the 2 races, the night race, the winners went by the name of Engel and Stolz. They know how to keep it right, keep a car's tyres sweet right through the stint. We've got just under 20 minutes remaining in this race, and I think we haven't had the final shot from Maro Engel, and I certainly think Alex Fontana is going to have to be right on his toes.
Look at Matteo Drudi in the 6th place, 99 Audi. and he's got Raffaele Marcello all over him like a rash in the 88 Mercedes. So two Mercedes in battles right behind the car they're challenging, but not being able to make any further progress. Maro Engels 7/10 of a second behind third place. Raffaele Marcello 4/10 of a second behind sixth place.
Well, certainly one of the crews that's gained positions is that car with Matteo Drudi in it. It started in 10th place. Tommaso Mosca did a very good job, but Drudi just seems to get better and better across the years. And certainly going very well for Temto Racing in that number 99 Audi R8 LMS. Cross the curves one more time at the chicanes. That is the improved line. That's the final chicane onto the start. Finish straight, short straight, then quickly into the Grand Curve. And it's Charles Weerts' teammate Dries van Tor leading this race. What's the gap this time around? Waiting for the gap to be confirmed again. 9.5 seconds. Not much that Albert Costa can do. He's going to push on hard. Now riding on board with Fred Vervies, a driver who knows an Audi R8 LMS, forwards, backwards and sideways, but he's finding himself down in 12th position, sharing with Aurelian Panis for the first time this year, and expect him to be a driver who gains positions before this race is out.
Well, I mean, I love watching Fred Vervies drive because he brings excitement for a man who looks so undemonstrative. He is certainly behind the wheel as far as anybody out there, but of course track position as such, down in 12th place. He's just a half a second behind Jules Gougnot. Jules Gougnot, he ain't a walk in the park either.
Certainly isn't. After 3 years racing for Bentley, he's determined to put a good one in on his first performance here with the ACA ASP team in 11th place there, and all over the tail of Pierre-Alexandre Jean. Now observing that battle from just about 2 or 3 seconds further down the track is Fred Vervies, looking, listening, watching, feeling the tyres, doing everything the top racing driver should do.
And what I was interested to watch was comparing to what we saw with Chris Froggatt and the Ferrari. Ferrari was way offline on the lap before he came in. Fred Vervies in the Audi with a car that's operating absolutely normally, able to hold that line all the way around the inside of the 180 curve, but down into the Lycée Pain, and then Matteo Drudi still getting all the attention, and that's not very much. Raffaele Marcello, a lot more. There's a pit car. Somebody got into the pit lane. Wow, I thought somebody had actually overshot the corner, but the fact they came into the pits, one of the Mercedes, I think.
Warning flag to car 26.
In fact, it's Fred Vervies who's dived into the pits. It did seem as though a driver had got the braking very, very easily there in the pits. Could it well be a punch with all that debris at the outside of the circuit? You'd have to put the clever money on that. So just as we said, watch him gain places. Unfortunately, he's lost them, and up onto the jacks goes Fred for Santalot Racing. That's number 26 car. Don't forget their teammate, the sister car, Leo Roussel, went for a spin early in the race, so it's not been their dream result. This time last year, they took one of the 2 wins here.
Yeah, they took the rear wheel off and had a look around the suspension. Maybe Fred Vervies felt there was something with the back of the car that was not normal. But look at this battle going on. Wow, I tell you, Raffaele Marcello and Matteo Drudi, there ain't an awful lot being left by either, and Marcello gets the slightly better line around the 180, follows literally in the tire tracks as they make their way up the hill, up into this really exciting part of the racetrack. Raffaele goes one side, trying to make Drudi go defensive through the Imola chicane, cuts back to the left now, under braking up the hill, up into Chateau d'Eau. He goes wide, whereas Drudi stays tight. Can the undercut make it? Can he make it stick? The drive off is sort of, but not quite, I was going to say favouring Marcello, but he's got alongside under brakes. He's got it, done a good pass, all well thought through and executed prior to coming through the Imola chicane.
Couple of 2 or 3 years ago, when Raffaele Marcello crossed over from single seasons to GT3 racing, he took to it like a duck to water. And if this battle had been even the following year, Drudi wouldn't have been able to hold him up for as long as he did. But Drudi is made of staunch stuff, and it took a great move down into Lycée Pit for that move to be pulled off by Raffaele Marcello. Up into 6th place, but they're a long way behind those ahead. That's the maximum score surely the Italian can get. Well, the lead Italian there, Marcello, because Drudi, of course, is Italian as well. Out front, though, Dries van Tor leading by its stable. It was 9.4 seconds. It's now 9.3 seconds over Albert Costa, and he's got more than 10 seconds clear of Fontana. But Fontana's very busy in 3rd place. He's got Maro Engels still all over his tail. And then just a little bit further back in that pack, you can see the Ferrari still in the mix there. Benjamin Ites, of course, last year he raced a Mercedes on his first year of racing in Europe, but he's gone back to his Ferrari roots, and he's very busy indeed. He's got a Bentley right on his tail. Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Jules Gougnot catching the pair of them. So Ferrari, Bentley, Mercedes in the middle of the mix, in the middle of the pack, in the middle of the night. But up front, it's still Dries van Toor, Team WRT, Audi at the top of the pile, qualified on pole, still leading the race.
Indeed he is, and he's got a comfortable gap of 9.7 seconds. Albert Costa had been putting in purple sectors, what, 3 or 4 laps ago. That's all gone, and it's just green now for Dries van Toor, who is doing what we've seen him do so often in the past. So here, Alexander Jean in the Bentley, running so through that chicane, back on start finish straight, and back into this wonderful Grand Curve, which right now you want to make sure you stay 100% online. That's the 10th place Bentley.
As soon as the driver starts getting it wrong from Grand Curve, they're not going to get it right in Estoril, then they compromise the whole way up the hill, and I sense that Jules Gounon was looking at Pierre-Alexandre Jean, getting it slightly wrong. But don't forget, the Bentley's so strong on the blast up the straight to the Adelaide hairpin, so whatever he lost in that corner, he gained again, or got it back again by the top of the hill. So Pierre-Alexandre Jean, CMR Bentley, in 10th place still, resists for another lap, but that's brought a tiny bit of an advantage from Benjamin Hites, the red-black Ferrari, going down through the sweepers ahead of him.
So that half a second gap between the Bentley and the Ferrari is rounding out the last 2 places in the top 10. And then slightly further ahead, you would have, that's a big one, the TalkSport, second of the TalkSport, the Silver Cup Mercedes of Yusuf Pekata coming, as we look again at the, how to pick up the number 6.
Well, totally under control for Dries van Toor at the front of the field, but any of these gaggles of cars in the tail of the top end, top 10, absolutely far from settled. Dries van Toor seems to match everything and a little bit more from Albert Costa. The Audi seems sweeter on its tyres later in the race, the first in and the second. It's now 10 seconds to the good. Raffaele Marcello starting to make moves, and you can see it at Imola, the uphill sweepers. He's the fastest of all by 2 kilometres an hour. He's making his mark.
Yeah, remember, that's the point in the racetrack where it gave Raffaele Marcello the benefit of getting past. He was struggling all the way through, but he made the pass as a consequence of being good through Imola, and that time, that speed through there may have been on that particular lap.
Well, making it stick, but a driver who can't make it stick and is being chased. Discount the Audi in that group. That's the one with rear Chiritometer. That is a good lap, probably 2 laps down after it was stuck in the gravel. They brought out the full course yellow, full course yellow, but the battle in front of him that he's probably enjoying watching is that battle for 3rd and 4th positions. Alex Fontana leading the Silver Cup class for good measure, and of course being pushed so hard by Mauro Engel.
10 minutes and a little bit remaining. So where this race has gone on the blink of the moon almost.
It really has. Just pointing out though about Fontana, 3rd overall, leading the Silver Cup class, 28 seconds to good over the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. Rick Broikers driving that. Yusuf Pohaka 3rd in class. Down the hill one more time. This is the corner, of course, where Raffaele Marcello made the move just a couple of laps ago to move up position over Matteo Drudi, but no changes in that battle for 3rd place. It's still the 14 Lamborghini in 3rd place overall. Still resisting Mauro Engel. Can he do it for another 10 minutes? Let's find out.
Is it getting darker? I mean, it's an obvious and silly question to ask. No, that's not ideal. You don't cut across the inside of the Nürburgring chicane quite like that. That's taking advantage of the inside of the racetrack. Probably something that will be observed. If it happens on a more regular basis, it could be a notification to stop doing it.
Well, there's Andrea Bertolini just leading the Pro-Am class. He made his way from the back of the class to the front. He's got Dominic Baumann giving chase, doing his utmost to lead that class. Aston Martin in 3rd place. Frederick West handed over to Johnny Adams, or the many-time British GT champion and former endurance champion Pro-Am class here several years ago, giving chase, but really it's looking very good for Andrea Bertolini. Louis Michel started the race in the Pro-Am class at the back of the field, got to the front of the class, and now the man who's had so much success with Michel's, Bertolini, leading the class with under 10 minutes to go. Tail end of the top 10, still super busy at the moment. 9th place still Benjamin Hites, 10th place still Pierre-Alexandre Jean, but Jules Gounon wants to get by in the Mercedes, the back of that trio. Yeah, I mean, still can't find a way.
No, it's the same issue all around the racetrack. The cars are so evenly matched, and bits of the racetrack make you really struggle. Benjamin Hites in the Ferrari running in 9th. He's got Alexander Piaget in the Bentley directly behind him, and then there's Jules Gougnot, Kelvin van der Linde. I mean, I haven't seen much of him.
Just seen Mauro Engel pulling off just behind the graphics. The white Mercedes, he was fighting for 3rd place overall, suddenly slowed, and I'm afraid for him he's not making it back to the pits. He's exited Chateau d'Eau but got a little further.
That is a terminal issue. I can't imagine what it would be. There's no indication that there's something mechanical, so what else can it be? If he had a puncture, surely he would have made it back to the pits. So it could be hydraulic, it could be electrical. Sad for Mauro Engel and for Lucas Stolz. They were doing a stunning job, and their race is now over.
Absolutely over, but may well be the experience of Engel might have just detected something that maybe could have been terminally terminal, if you know what I mean, and brought it to the side of the circuit. Come on, made no points for them. Everyone else move up a position, so the driver who just broken into the top 10 overall is now Jules Gougnot. AKA ASB Mercedes, where one Mercedes halts, another rises up the order. But Dries van Toor still leading this race by 163. The 163 Lamborghini. 10 seconds to the good and another 10 seconds back to Alex Fontana. They're the top 3. We're riding with Alex Fontana through the darkness, leading the Silver Cup class by 8.6 seconds. Rick Broikers doing his utmost in the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes, but look at the clock. 7 minutes remaining in this race. I fear it's too late for the Dutch racer, which is very good news for the Swiss, for Alex Fontana in 3rd overall.
Yeah, so you got the Emil Frey Lamborghinis in 2nd and 3rd place, but there's roughly 10 seconds between the 2nd place Lamborghini Albert Costa and the lead Audi, and a further 10 seconds from Costa back to Emil Frey. So the top 3 have spaced themselves more or less equidistantly around the racetrack. Where's the next big challenge going to come? Well, Rick Broikers, he's another 9 seconds behind Alex Fontana. Raffaele Marciello in the ACA ASP Mercedes, who is on a charge, just 3.5 seconds behind Rick Broikers. Can he make it up to 4th position with 6 minutes remaining? It's a mighty big ask.
It certainly is, but looking at the increments that he's gaining, he could just about do it, but catching is the first challenge, passing is the second challenge. But Marciello, probably fired up by that battle with Matthias Drudy, is heading off after the Dutchman. 4th place still with Broikers, 5th place still with Marciello. Will it be that at flagfall? 6 minutes and small change remains.
Just looking a bit further down, Jack Aiken, who we saw, that was a poor pit stop for the 114 Lamborghini, running in the pro category. He has just found a way around Ben Barnicoat in the number 38 Jota McLaren.
Well, we've just seen Mauro Engel pull off, and Gemma's managed to go quickly down the pit lane, and she's found Engel's teammate, the driver who started. That's Lucas Stolz.
Luca, we've just seen the car pull off with Mauro at the wheel. Do you know what's happened?
Yeah, no, not really. I didn't hear the radio call. It just seemed like there was something on the rear left, but I don't know what was the issue in the end. But it was really unfortunate because, yeah, it was P4, so it was actually quite good. We had a difficult qualifying, but the guys did a mega job in pit stop, and we gained some places. So yeah, it's really a shame.
Yeah, disappointing to be running so well and have to pull over like that.
Yeah, definitely. You always lose points when you have DNF. So yeah, it's difficult, but yeah, we keep pushing tomorrow.
Thank you.
On small things races can turn. I just got some other news in my ear from Gemma saying that Ricardo Fella, his radio failed during the full course yellow period, which is possibly why those 2 Lamborghinis came in right next to each other. But his was the leading one of the pair, so that was going to come in anyway. But these little problems certainly can manifest themselves in ways that give drivers more than a little bit of a shake-up. But right now, it's really Dries van Toor controlling this race. 9-10 seconds to good. It's actually come down to just closer to 9 seconds as Albert Costa gives chase. But look, 4 and a bit minutes remaining. You have to say this one surely is going the way of Team WRT. And the driver who started from pole, Charles Weers, and for Dries van Toor. And for the rest, as hard as they bounce over the downhill chicane at the Nürburgring sweeper on that run down the hill from Adelaide Hairpin, as hard as they hit the curves and as hard as they accelerate out of Estoril, it's very hard to see any place changes towards the end of the race, except, John, let's keep an eye on Raffaele Marciello as he gives chase to Rick Breukers for 4th place overall. He's closing in. He's just put in his fastest first sector, his fastest second sector on this lap, but he's got about 3 seconds to make, but he's giving it his utmost.
I mean, all around the racetrack, I mean, again, I mentioned the Lamborghini's Emil Frey Racing. Albert Costa's got the gap down to lead position down to 8.5 seconds. Further down in the race, Jack Aiken having a really strong run, fastest sector time in Sector 1 of anybody, so he's getting with the programme as well.
But the clock continues to tick. This 1 hour race is all but done in the darkness. It certainly is a brilliant sight at Magny-Cours, something very different. But for the drivers, of course, they've got other races in this darkness here, of course, at Paul Ricard, and then the big one at the end of July at the Spa 24 hours when running in the darkness is de rigueur.
Different race altogether. Of course, you're in the Ardennes forest. Everything is dark. In that, I mean, remember when we had Spa 24 back end of October 2020, almost had 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness. In the end of July, it'll be a lot more normal, back to maybe something about 7, 8 hours of darkness. Thankfully, the rest will be in daylight.
It really gave the race a very, very different feel last year, but we're happy to change it back to this year's date at the very end of July. Christian Engelhardt started to make a bit of ground. Of course, that was his car, started by Adrian Delina, was down at the tail of the field. The 54 Dynamic Motorsport Porsche took glory in the opening endurance round, but here at Monza, but here this weekend, they're not going to take the big one in the race at all. There he is, 16th position, right on the tail of Johnny Adams' Aston Martin. He'd like to be at the sharp end, but for now, all he can do is fight with what he's given.
Interesting to watch just how these two pro drivers get on. Johnny Adams knows his way around an Aston Martin better than any driver I've seen, and certainly Christian Engelhardt is no slouch when it comes to dragging a performance, as we saw at Monza out of the Dynamic Motorsport Porsche.
In fact, just to correct myself, that's the sister car from Garage 59, Nicholas Caillard. That's the 159 car, not the 188, which Johnny Adams is driving. So the laps continue to count down, and Dries Van Tor, nice and clean and neat and tidy. The car we saw just in behind him, I think, was Johnny Adams' Aston Martin. But Dries Van Tor, the advantage was 10 seconds, was 9 seconds, is 8.2 seconds, but that's fine. He's only got 1 minute and a bit remaining in this race. Charles Weerts watches on. Doesn't have to be too nervous because Dries has been there, seen it, done it, has now just got to deliver.
And remember, Charles Weerts led from the ledge going out, did a very good job under a lot of pressure. Didn't put a wheel wrong, brought the car in, not at the earliest opportunity, but the waved yellow flag. Now, that's because of the Mercedes at the side of the racetrack. No overtaking is permitted in that waved yellow flag zone, but probably there aren't going to be too many cars right now who would even consider doing a move at the exit out of Chateau d'Eau.
So with 45 seconds remaining, onto the start-finish straight for the penultimate time. One more lap to go for our race leader, for Dries Van Tor. The gap doesn't matter if it comes down a bit more. He had 8.2 seconds advantage last time. It's now down to 7.8. He stemmed a little bit, but doesn't matter. He's suitably clear of Albert Costa. And then Alex Fontana leading the Silver Cup class is third overall. So it's Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini's second and third. It's the 163 ahead of this one, car 14. Alex Fontana through Grand Curb he goes, and then sweeping his way into the corner that keeps on sweeping to Cyril John, and then of course up the back straight they go. Emil Frey Racing Garage looking pretty content down there.
Yeah, they had a good result this evening, second and third positions, and the system of the third car running a little bit further down the field, and that's Jack Aiken behind the wheel in 12th place.
Yes, and for Arthur Rougier, we just saw him at the front of the garage. He didn't even expect to race here, and suddenly he's heading for a podium position and victory in the Silver Cup class. Second place, though, Albert Costa bringing it home. And what a pairing that will be if it stays all season with Ricardo Feller, the two hot guns in that team.
Absolutely. Look forward to seeing the next time we get to a sprint race, which is going to be, I think, at the beginning of July in Misano, down on the Italian Riviera.
The race when the day turns tonight, still the waved yellow flags for Maro Engel's stricken Mercedes. The drivers have passed it several times. They know it's there. It's not a threat for them, and it's certainly not a threat for Dries Van Tor. Get the braking right down into Lycée Pain. Tick that one off, and now it's just turned 16 and 17. There they are, onto the start-finish straight. And in an instant, there is the checkered flag early in the start-finish straight. Lights are being a flash for Team WRT. And getting down from his chair, watching the action, Charles Weerts, first win of the Sprint Cup for 2021. in the bag.
Excellent drive indeed. Just I was getting excited. In fact, the next sprint run will be at Zandvoort in the middle of June. But I mean, a very, very composed drive by Charles Vett and Dries van Thor, and WRT, well, back to the winning ways we're so familiar with.
Well, still fighting down the order, and there is Andrea Bertolini heading for victory in the Pro-Am class. AF Course has started stone last, but has built on the excellent work from Louis Michiels. Still got half a lap to go, still got company, but has these things under control. Now, the big question was, did Rick Broekers manage to hang on to fourth place? Yes, he did, ahead of Raffaele Marciello. But it's cheers and whoops and hollers down the Team WRT garage. They've drawn first blood in the 2021 Sprint Cup and did a very good job indeed. And Matthias Trudi came home in sixth place for good measure there. Yusuf Ohaka in seventh. Benjamin Nites up to eighth. Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Jules Gounon taking the final position in the top 10. So for Emil Frey Racing, there's Ricardo Feller up on the pit wall. They can be proud. A second and third here, looking very good indeed.
Absolutely. Of course, we've got another race in daylight hours, Sunday afternoon, the early hours of Sunday afternoon. And that likewise is going to be no less, how can you say, competitive?
Of course it's competitive, John. We know it's going to be, but such a different feel, a daylight race versus this one at the end of a very long day. But this one belonged to that pair. Charles Weerts, who started from pole, did not put a wheel wrong, and by staying out longer than his rivals, he stretched that advantage before the pit stops. Then Dries van Tor took over and did what Dries does. He wins races.
Absolutely, and again, the key was keeping Charles Weerts behind the wheel that little bit longer when the racetrack was fully to his advantage. That's what you do. These races are not just won on the racetrack. They're won by people in the pit lane who are looking at the strategies and saying, this is what we think we need to do, this is what we got to do to make sure we gain maximum benefit from what is now a clear racetrack. Nobody ahead of us. We can pull away from the rest of the field. Once the track went green, all the advantages went to Charles Weerts, and he made that advantage work, gave WRT the opportunity to come in and make the change, and then Dries van Thor had a drive to the checkered flag.
It really is about speed, but you're quite right, John. It's about maximising that speed, getting the full efficiency out of everything out there. And clever strategy, but it's easier to control a race from the front. That's precisely where Charles Weerts put them. So, a very, very long Saturday at Magny-Cours, racing almost from dawn, definitely to past dusk, and the cars being wheeled off to the podium, the lucky ones, and to the paddock for the rest. We're back for more tomorrow, but waiting to see clearly some excited drivers from Team WRT greet each other down in Parc Fermé. Lamborghini's the first ones to get there. They came home in second and third positions, but it was a job very, very well done indeed. And there is the winning car, stopping right by the number one. Charles Weerts there to greet his compatriot. They've done this before, and I certainly think on this year's form they're going to do it all over again.
Oh, there's no question that it's a very, very formidable driver package. It's a very, very formidable team. And Vincent Vance present here this weekend. I mentioned Pierre Dudonné likewise. So the hierarchy, and of course Charles Weerts' father, who's a significant part of this whole WRT team, coming together, doing what they knew they needed to do.
But you do it one year, there's no guarantee you'll do it the next. And so winning that first round is such any sport, you get momentum in taking victories, and it sort of almost defines you for the season unless someone else suddenly finds some form. So what a start for the pair.
Yeah, and again, just think all the way through, because teams will analyse what their race was, but actually, you know, the race was won from pole position. Charles Weerts put that car on pole position. He gained the advantage. He led from the lights going out. The car was never other than in the lead, except on the overlaps during the pit stop. So they won that race after qualifying earlier today.
It's good to hear drivers complimenting each other on all that they do, because particularly under cover of darkness, it's a much harder equation to get things right. But I think we're going down very shortly to hear from our race winners, Charles Weerts and Dries van Tor. And now finally they can relax. So let's go down, because they have been caught down in Parc Fermé. We have Charles Weerts, who started from pole, and Dries van Tor. Gemma's caught them. Let's hear what they think about how they won the race.
Charles, Dries, a fantastic result. Dries, when we spoke to you on the grid, you said to me earlier that you felt confident, and surely you had reason to.
I mean, first of all, it's a big hats off to the team. I mean, we've been working really hard over the winter, and honestly, I think everybody's seeing that it's really working out. So, I mean, it's we really tried to be working on the car the whole winter, and I mean, the car is just amazing to drive. And yeah, Charles did an amazing start. The mechanics did an amazing pit stop. So yeah, it's a nice team one. Nice one for the team. Sorry.
Thank you, Jason. Charles, of course, like Joe said there, you did a fantastic start, a great first stint.
Yeah, I mean, that was a perfect situation for us, starting from pole with the elbows a bit. Then, yeah, the car was, as Dries said, amazing to drive. And the boys did an amazing, a lot of work during the winter, so really pleased. And yeah, again, as I dedicate my pole for Kurt's daughter, he actually asked me if I could bring him something to put flowers, because he got a lot of flowers. So I would be more than pleased to give him the trophy. So that one is again for you, Kurt.
Thank you very much, boys. Let's just pop our way over this way. Follow me if you can, Brandy, the cameraman. Albert Costa, Ricardo Fella. Ricardo, you said to me at the beginning of that stint where you started the race, you had problems with the radio.
No, it was by the end of my stint where the focus yellow came, and then the green flag again. I did not get the countdown, and obviously I was playing too safe, and we lost some time. But the rest of the stint was quite good. Beginning I was struggling a bit with tire pressures, but in the end I think we were quite fast, and Albert did an amazing job in the end. First podium for the 163 this year.
Congratulations, Albert. What a stint.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. As I told you before the start of the race, to be honest, I struggled to get on shape with the black lights, in the night. As I yesterday, everybody knows I couldn't drive. But once I managed more or less where to go, the sting was nice. To be honest, Vantor, car 32 was a bit quick. But it's good, no? Sprint. Last year we fight for the title, now we are second, so we are there. I'm happy.
Well done, thank you very much. We're going to cross behind you there. Come with me over to our third place. Again, the Emil Frey guys. Over here, boys, can we turn you around? A fantastic result for you. Arthur, you didn't even expect to be driving this weekend.
Yeah, actually I came today, I woke up and I didn't know I was going to drive, so for sure I'm really happy about the quali and the win in silver and the podium overall. So I mean, yeah, what to say, what a perfect day in the end.
Absolutely, and Alex, like Arthur says there, to get the Pro-Am win and the third overall, a fantastic result for the team.
Yeah, third overall and a Silver Cup is fantastic for us. Obviously, Arthur did a mega job today. We knew that Ricardo was already fast in our car. In fact, he did well in the Pro car as well. We knew Arthur was really quick, but to be so fast straight away, it was really a mega job. In the end, we did a good job as a team to put everything together, everyone in the condition to do well, and in the end, we take the results.
A great start to the season. Thank you very much and well done.
Thank you.
So great performances there from Team WRT. They came top. Look at that result. Charles Weerts started it and Dries van Tor finished it, winning by 6.4 seconds at the end. They could back off. They had an advantage of over 10 seconds over the leading Emil Frey Racing entry. Ricardo Feller started that. Albert Costa brought it home. Just heard from them. And then Arthur Rougier, Alex Fontana won the Silver Cup class in third overall, also in an Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini, followed in the Silver Cup class by Ezekiel Perez-Companc and Rick Broikers, who have been caught hand over fist by Raffaele Marcello at the end, but held on to take that fourth place. Tommaso Mosca and Matteo Drudi, the Tempter Racing Audi, rounding out the top six, chased hard by Yusuf Oaxaca and Oscar Tunyo. So there are the top 15 runners, and some great performances lost outside the top 10 under cover of darkness. And if you want to know who won the Pro-Am class, it was AF Corsa in 18th overall, started by Louis Michels from the back of the field, ahead of Andrea Bertolini. Alex Arca, Christopher Mies followed them home. Look, great names all the way down there. Second in the Pro-Am class, Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann. And third in class, Alexander West and Johnny Adam in one of the two Garage 59 Aston Martins. It's 3 non-finishers, but 27 started, and it was an exciting race. Lucas Stoltz and Mauro Engel could have been heading for a podium. They ended up parked at the edge. But advantage to Van Tor and Weerts after first of the 2 rounds here of the opening Sprint Cup weekend at Magny-Cours. What an evening's racing. Now let's take a look at the points. Ricardo Feller, this is after the 2 rounds. Obviously, Ricardo Feller with that third place at Monza takes the top position. Klaus Bachler and Christian Engelhardt with that victory at Monza stay on 25 points with Matteo Cairoli. But Alex Fontana fellow Lamborghini racer, now into what ranks as third overall. Raffaele Marcello again in the mix across the sprint and endurance series when knitted together. But let's go down to the podiums and some happy but probably quite tired faces. It was hot out there, John, for the drivers.
It was a feisty race. Whatever way you look at it, everybody was right on the edge. And if you got to the edge, you're going to get into trouble. So the key, especially if you're on the front, was just drive your own race, ignore what's going on around you, just make your apexes. Don't try and be too optimistic, let's say, particularly on those quick corners leading through onto the back straight, the long Gulf Straight.
Well, it really was the story of Team WRT Audi, with Dries van Tor bringing it home after Charles Weert stretched the advantage from pole position. Never challenged. He was pushed in the early laps by the Lamborghinis, but stretched his way clear. And there he is, heading to the top step of the podium. Third place overall.
On deuxième overall, Emil Frame
Alex
Racing,
Fontana.
163 of Albert Costa and Ricardo Feller.
Albert Costa and Arthur Rougier, and then in second place here, the 163 crew of Albert Costa and Ricardo Feller, shuffled up this weekend when Norbert Siedler couldn't come to the race after injuring himself yesterday. €7,500 for second place overall in the Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS.
En première, les victoires, c'est Team WRT. Car number 32, Charles Weert and Dries van Tor.
So here are winners taking winners' trophies for the first time in the Sprint Cup in 2021. Will it be the last? Charles Weert grabs the cheque as well. Big cardboard cheque, and Dries van Tor walks out to stand in front of the sponsors' logos. There we are, €10,000, 2 drivers' trophies and 1 for Team WRT as well. They've put their colours to the flag.
Un super course pour les gagnants. Félicitations. Et maintenant, on fait le podium pour le Silver Cup.
So rattling through the podiums, the drivers have to go home to bed or back to their hotels tonight. But let's go now to the Silver Cup podium. Oscar Tunyo and Yusuf Oaxaca being called out in third place in the Silver Cup class. They were 7th overall in the number 7 TalkSport WRT Mercedes. Yusuf grabs the check. And they'll be followed out on the podium by the crew that finished in 4th place overall. It's Rick Breukers and Ezekiel Perez-Companc will be next out on the podium for Mad Panda Motorsport. There's some good points for TalkSport WRT.
Car number 90 of Ezekiel Perez-Companc and Rick Breukers.
Ever the showman, Ezekiel Perez-Companc beats his chest. And Rick Breukers enjoying being up there as well. But the winners in the Silver Cup class, we've already seen them once and we're seeing them all over again. Third place overall, Alex Fontana and Arthur Rougier. Good points for them. They take the initial lead in the Sprint Cup, Silver Cup class. So we've had the overall winners, we've had the Silver Cup winners, there they are, and now we're going to go to the final set of podiums, and that is for the Pro-Am class.
Et maintenant, le Pro-Am Cup. Et en troisième, Garage 59, car number 188 of Alexander West and Johnny Adam.
So Johnny Adam and Alexander West, Alexander on the left, come out to take third place in the Pro-Am class in their Garage 59 Aston Martin. To Alexander West, the check. Second place in the Pro-Am class will be next out onto the podium.
Maintenant en deuxième, SPS Automotive Performance, car numéro 1.
And it's Dominic Baumann and Valentin Pierberg. SPS Automotive Performance in their Mercedes. Tall figure of Valentin Pierberg leads the pair out. And the winners will come out to end our broadcast, and it's Louis Michiels and Andrea Bertolini for their AF Corsa Ferrari team just being called the podium right now. They started last in class, last in the race, and really worked their way forward. So a great result for the pair, for Louis Michiels and Andrea Bertolini. So congratulations for AF Corsa. They came through the field and through the night. They get the trophies and they get the check. So great job for the Ferrari crew here at Magny-Cours. It's been a night of interesting racing, John, and looking forward to tomorrow's mix, which will be totally different in full day night. So that's it from us for tonight, from John Watson and from me, Bruce Jones. Come back and join us tomorrow. Plenty more in store, and I'm sure the whole field is going to be the other way around.